The emotional root cause of endometriosis, also known as the psychological, spiritual, mental root cause of endometriosis. Hi, my name is Dr. Jennifer Schlueter, and right away I want to say I am not a medical doctor. If you're looking for medical advice or Western medicine, then I'm not your girl. If you're looking for holistic alternatives to healing and helping with your endometriosis, if you're curious about alternative ways to heal your endometriosis, then hey, I'm your girl and you can stay and watch this video. So I want to talk about different types of root causes for endometriosis. I myself have done my PhD on that, and for that I've also done a lot of research for a lot of people, from a lot of other people, authors, therapists, spiritual mentors, mediums, and so on and so forth. All types of people who have found root causes for endometriosis that have their root cause in anything spiritual, mental, emotional, or psychological. Because the research is, if you read The Body Keeps a Score, then you will know that your trauma that you have experienced in your past manifests inside of your body. And there's also research done on how trauma influences the immune system. However, there is no research, unfortunately, on the method that I use to help my clients ease their pain and symptoms, and sometimes even completely alleviate pain and symptoms for certain people, and how they can, after that, feel so much better emotionally, have hope for their healing, and really change their lives after. So this is what I did in my PhD study. And now I want to show you guys different books first, what different authors are saying about the endometriosis root cause. And then I want to go into what I found in my PhD case study that I have conducted. So let's start with the first book, that is called The Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases by Jacques Martel, that you can also get. It's also on Kindle. I have it on Kindle, so I'm going to be reading here from my phone. Jacques Martel, by the way, is a therapist who has corresponded any type of physical ailment and disease with a mental load that people have or had, and with anything going on that is psychological. So for endometriosis, here's what he has to say. Endometriosis is the formation of fragments of mucous tissues outside of the uterine wall. It is related to an unconscious refusal of maternity. It often happens that the relationship I have or had with my mother, or the heritage she left me, physical as well as emotional, is in conflict with what I am and the place I want to hold in this world. I don't know how to position myself before this lady who was so influential in my life. I am afraid that by expressing myself, I might antagonize her. Is it possible that my parents loved each other, but I deny this fact? If I come from a so-called broken family, I may fear that the family I will offer my child won't be perfect, won't be good enough. It is as if this child's nest was somewhere else, and I can't suitably welcome it into my own home. Do I have any doubts about my couple? Am I afraid that I or my spouse may go and see elsewhere? Do my aspirations and my life as a couple make me fear that a child will change everything in my life? I doubt my capacity for being a good mother. Maybe I feel or sense that the home of this future child will be outside of my house. For example, if I know that my child will have to be cared for in a daycare center for most of the time, I may fear that my child will associate its real home with this place or this person with whom it spends the greater part of its days. It may also happen that I don't accept the world in which I live, or that I don't dare to be part of it. If I don't accept this world, how can I bring another being into it? Yet, even before my birth, I chose to come into this world. I wonder why I have difficulty in accepting myself as I am and channeling my creativity. I allow people to walk all over me, and I swallow everything without saying a word. I feel I don't have the strength to stand up and assert myself, and I constantly experience failures. I become aggressive, for I know I am preventing myself from achieving things because I have difficulty in focusing on my goals. This is what the therapist Jacques Martel has to say about endometriosis. And then also in this book, you can look into other symptoms that you have. For example, if you're feeling fatigued, if you have IBS, if you have heavy period pains and all of that, you can look into that separately in the same book or into what it says about the uterus. There will be other root causes as well for these symptoms that you may have. Now let's go into the second book. It is called Anatomy of the Spirit, and it is by Carolyn Myss. And Carolyn Myss has the idea that whenever you have something in your body that is an illness, a disease, or anything else, that you are giving away your power to someone else. For example, to your parents, to your boss, to your friends, to anyone else, and you're giving too much of that away. And when you reclaim your power, this will be when your body shows you that it can heal, and that's when it's also healing. For example, she has had a woman who came to her with breast cancer, I believe it was. And the woman, eventually she found out that she was in a bad marriage, and then she separated from the husband and she healed her breast cancer. It was completely psychological. So that book I can also totally recommend. It is really fascinating, everything that she has to say. But let's dive into the root cause of endometriosis and what Carolyn Myss has to say about that. Endometriosis sits in the second chakra, and so here's what she writes about that. Second chakra energy is one of the primary resources we have for coping with the day-to-day events of our lives, providing creative solutions to mental, physical, and spiritual problems or issues. Remember that the first mention of creativity. Your womb is also the center of creation, not only creation in a literal sense, such as a baby, but also in a sense of art, dance, writing, poetry, whatever it is that you do for a creative outlet. And right now in this society, we don't do a lot of creative things, but we rather consume, right? We scroll on social media, we get bombarded with advertisements, all of that stuff. So let me continue. Blocking this energy can give rise to impotence, infertility, vaginal infections, endometriosis, and depression. It also interferes with our spiritual maturation, as if stating, I don't wish to see anymore. I don't wish to understand any deeper. I don't wish to interact with the learning processes of life. If allowed to flow, creative energy will continually act to reshape our lives and reveal more meaning for why things happen as they do than we could determine on our own. That means get to creating. Get to creating and watch what happens. Stop consuming and start creating. Let's go into the second thing that she has to say about endometriosis. The misperception of money as the life force. The misperception of money as the life force. What do we do with money? Right now it is our life force because we can do everything with money. There's barely anything we can do without it, right? So misperception of money as the life force coupled with a sudden loss of money can activate any of several health crises. Prostate cancer, impotence, endometriosis, ovarian problems, and lower back and sciatic pain. The fact that so many of the physical problems created by financial stress manifest in the sexual organs is a symbolic expression of the energy of the phallus, represented by the Sephira of Yesod. Money has been equated to a sexual force. Interesting. Now let's see what Ina Siegel has to say in her book, The Secret Language of Your Body. Ina Siegel writes that endometriosis is all about feeling inadequate and unacceptable, rejecting the feminine aspect of yourself, feeling depleted, unsupported, ungrounded, holding on to feelings of rejection from others, especially men, devaluing and dishonoring yourself, denying yourself love and appreciation. We can also deny ourselves love and appreciation, by the way, if we don't accept compliments, right? If we don't say thank you, but instead we say, oh no, or if we say like, oh, but you too, or whatever, rather than accepting a compliment for us, right? Or if we are not accepting gifts or help or support from other people, also a way to deny love. Now let's go into what Susie Prudden has to say in her book, Body Wisdom. And Susie does not write about endometriosis in particular, but about the uterus, and it's going to be very interesting to see because the same thing that she says also came out in my case study for my PhD. So in Susie Prudden's book, I looked for uterus, and she says, your uterus represents how you hold, protect, and nurture creativity, like I mentioned earlier. In all fetal development, whether it is a baby or a seed or an idea, It needs a safe place in which to grow and food and water in which to develop. Ideas are no different from seeds of any kind. Ideas need to be nurtured in order to develop. If you have difficulty bringing ideas to fruition so that they can function fully and profitably in the world, you have uterus issues. The issues may include that you don't know how to nurture them to fruition, in which case you may need to research what is needed in your field. Your focus has not been on developing a functional idea, rather your focus has been on developing just any idea without an eye to function. Drawing this card alerts you to the need to learn what goes into developing a functional idea and putting yourself into a position to learn what you need to know. And this is like, she has cards for the book, and then you read up what the cards mean. With all that being said, I now want to go into what I found about the emotional root cause, the psychological, spiritual, mental root cause of endometriosis in my case study for my PhD. So I took 5 women, and with all of them, I went back to the root cause of their endometriosis in a hypnosis session. 4 of them released or alleviated their pain and symptoms, and all of them felt emotionally better and something changed within them. 3 of the women in the study, and all my clients since, the root cause has been issues with the maternal lineage, within the maternal lineage. What does that mean? Like, in all the sessions that we have done together, their mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, great-great-great-great-grandmothers, or their aunts came through, and they've all been saying, this is not your pain. You're carrying this because we have been betrayed, we have been silenced, we have had things done to us. This was all shit that happened in the past for their grandmothers, great-grandmothers, all of that. They have had shit to deal with, and the people now, my clients, are carrying that. And it has manifested as endometriosis in the uterus or wherever else it had spread. How wild. You can really see how generational trauma impacts you or anyone, me, anyone, right? This is the biggest root cause. And there were a few sessions. One of them, I had to help the grandmother move into a different grave. That sounds absolutely nuts, but that's how it was. And another one, her grandmother came through and she was saying that she has been betrayed, but you know, the client is not carrying it. And so we had to release all of that stuff. We had to release all the trauma from the grandmothers and great-grandmothers. And also the ancestors were helping us in the session to release all of that shit that they're carrying. And this session has helped a lot of people, but then we also did breath work in which we again released everything that came up for them. This was the main root cause. Number 1 root cause is anything that has to do with your ancestors in your maternal lineage, which is wild. Because also Jacques Martel in the first book that I mentioned had said anything that has to do with you being a mother or how you see your mother. So even your mother, right? She carried everything from her grandmother and great-grandmother and all of that. So everything is being carried down to you. And it has just manifested as endo, unfortunately. The second root cause that I found, which I didn't really note as a root cause, but it so happened that every single woman was telling me about this, which is not being in her feminine energy. So they were overworking, overdoing, overgiving, overanalyzing, over everything. So every one of us, for those of you who don't know this, every one of us has masculine and feminine energy. And usually when you're good, they're balanced and they're in alignment. However, if you have too much masculine energy, you overdo, you overgive, you overanalyze, and you don't listen to your intuition, all of that stuff. Feminine energy is being in flow, is reacting or deciding from your intuition rather than from logic. It is giving from an overflowing cup, because how many of us as women, biologically, we've been taught that it is better for us to care for our children first. Societally, we have been taught that give, and make everyone happy and please everyone and give to everyone. And, you know, you're raising the kids and you're doing this for your family and yada, yada, yada. So we're all in the stage or in a place where we overgive and we overdo. Nobody teaches us how to put ourselves first. Nobody says how important it is to pour into ourselves first, so that we can give from an overflowing cup. And there's also a video, I think by Mel Robbins and Gabor Mate, who has explored how trauma impacts the body as well. where he says women with autoimmune conditions, they give too much. They forget to pour into themselves. That is a huge one, huge one. And then we get to another root cause that I found, which is quite an obvious one because it is sexual trauma. So no matter if you have been, if you've had sexual trauma with a little t, such as you've been called something or said something sexual was said to you, or if it's a big T trauma where you have been raped or something else has happened to you, that is also a root cause and that manifests in your womb. If you have not worked around this, especially if this has happened to you as a child, because either you were ashamed to say something, or you were too shy to say something, or you just were too, you just didn't want to say something and you all swallowed it and you stuffed it down, it has manifested inside of your womb. And that was another root cause that I found. And the other root cause that I found as well kind of goes hand in hand with the feminine energy, because the person is an artist and she has had trouble creating. She has not felt worthy of creating because she was like, if I create from a space where I feel bad, where I have endometriosis, how worthy am I of creating, of writing songs, of bringing this to people? This is not, I'm not worthy of that. So we changed that, we shifted that, because even in that space, imagine there was no art that had been created, or that had, imagine if there was no art at all that had ever been created from sadness, from anger, from frustration. This is how so many art gets created, from just heavy emotion. And she did not feel worthy of having these heavy emotions and experience these heavy emotions and bringing that out into the world. So we shifted that, and then she got to create very differently. And it helped her as well to decrease her pain and symptoms. So that being said, right, if you recognize yourself in any of these root causes, what I can recommend is to work with a guide, to work with a professional. Doesn't need to be me. If it's me, that's great. If it's not me, that's great. So if you really want to work with someone who can help you release that trauma, find a modality that works for you, whether that is, it needs to be a somatic modality. What does that mean? It's not only talk therapy that happens in your mind. It needs to be something that is also working with your body. So what is that? Any somatic practices like trauma release exercises, that is hypnosis, that is breath work, that is EFT. It needs to not just affect the mind, but also your body. And hypnosis can do both. Breath work can do both. EFT can do both. These are some modalities that I know. Trauma release exercises as well. It needs to happen in your body as well. You cannot just talk away the psychological root cause for endometriosis. Maybe you can, maybe you can. I'm not gonna limit anyone here, right? Maybe you can. But what I really recommend and what I've seen will work is to use your body as well, so that you can have hope again, so that you can actually feel a connection to your womb and to your body, and so that you can feel like your body isn't fighting you, but it is speaking to you. It is saying like, hey, stop, you're overdoing this, or hey, stop, there's something I need you to look at, so that you can feel hope again, so that you can ease your pain and your symptoms, and so that you can feel better. If this is something that you want to explore with me, I'm going to leave some links in the description below and in the pinned comment, and then you can also email me or you can message me on Instagram. I'm always happy to answer any questions. There's also more material on my Instagram or on my TikTok around this topic if you want to get into this. If you want me to send you my PhD dissertation, I'm happy to do that, so you can dive a little bit deeper into this. And I hope I was able to help you and this was interesting. Leave me any comment below if you have any more questions, or if you want to talk, or if you want me to talk about something else when it comes to that. Also, please like this video and subscribe.